Kanye West has been locked out of his Twitter and Instagram accounts after posting anti-Semitic messages. He had his Instagram account suspended over the weekend after accusing rapper Diddy of being controlled by Jewish people. Kanye West responded to his suspension by rejoining Twitter and saying he would go DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, a military term that means a definitive attack. That earned him a second disbarment. Both platforms removed West's posts and said the star had violated policies on hate speech. Kanye West, who's changed his name to Ye, was diagnosed with bipolar disorder several years ago and has spoken publicly about his mental health challenges. He has a long history of erratic behavior and making controversial statements, but his latest outburst threatens to damage his business interests as well. Some brands for whom he's a presenter have stopped their contracts with the rapper just recently.
And my kids are going to a school that teaches black kids a complicated Kwanzaa. I prefer my kids knew Hanukkah than Kwanzaa. At least it will come with some financial engineering.
And this is just one example to his remarks that have created controversy. Rabbi Mordechai Yosef ben Avraham, a former music producer from LA turned rabbi and the author of the book Mind of the Black Jew, joins us now in studio. What a biography. I want to ask you more about yourself, not about Kanye West. But I will ask about both of you. Are you a fan of Kanye West as an artist?
You know, Kanye is probably one of the great creative minds of our generation. He's revolutionized the sound of music, how it's presented, and he's done an amazing job merging fashion and music together. And so he's a phenomenal, entertainer, creative.
Now, you've been in the music industry in LA, as I mentioned. Have you, in those years when you worked there, heard anything from Kanye West, from the people around him, from people in the industry, anything about against Jews, any anti-Semitic remarks or anything, or is it just these bursts of the last couple years?
Yeah, I mean, the music industry, especially from the urban perspective, the African-American Jews and black people work very close together. And so there isn't really such an anti-Semitic tone. I mean, there have been people who have said things like Nick Cannon, and there were people even before that made statements, but I don't think the anti-Semitism, or I don't know if there's such an education about the severity of these terms, because there's such a close relationship and proximity between blacks and Jews, even historically in America in general.
Now, I'm sure you've seen these tweets, maybe not over the weekend, but after. How did that make you feel?
I was hurt. I was very hurt. I was very disappointed, and I think it's an opportunity, instead of just condemning Kanye West, because those statements should be condemned. They're not proper statements for anybody to make such things. But it's also an opportunity to discuss the lack of Jewish diversity that's being presented by the Jewish community in the world. Because anytime you make these statements, not just that he said, going DEFCON 3, he also said, made statements about black people being the real Jews and these types of things. And these things are detrimental for Jews of color like myself and the collective Jewish community as a whole, and it goes against the narrative of the Torah. So I feel like these moments are times where we should utilize this opportunity to educate. Like, I've been living in Israel for like 7 years now, and the diversity here is almost exactly like California, Los Angeles specifically. But everyone here is Jewish. But the world doesn't see that. And I think the more we take that accountability to educate the world on the beautiful diversity of our people, the less these type of statements will be made.
What do you make of that short suspension? I mean, so much of what's happening in the public sphere takes place in today's public square, which is Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, etc., these social media platforms. What do you make of this short suspension of the accounts? Does it do anything?
A lot of the monetization of content is coming through social media, and I'm actually very pleased with the fact that a lot of these companies are taking the initiative to say, hey, you know what? We're not going to allow hate speech to be on our platform. We're not going to allow, things that are going to trigger people and upset them, to be just, put out at the behest of, a person's emotional state.
Yeah, but if they suspend the account for just a few hours or a day, is that enough to actually make people think twice before they post again?
People like Kanye West, probably not. Smaller people who are more like media influencers, yes.
Okay. What do you expect the music industry in the United States to do? I mean, we've heard that brands across the United States, Adidas is considering not renewing the contract with him. Other brands have done the same in recent months. Do you expect the music industry to do anything? I mean, they are controlled by the Jews, aren't they?
I don't know if it's controlled by the Jews. I think that's a statement that, people, they make these anti-Semitic statements saying, oh, Jews control the media. If that was the case, Israel would have the best publicity in the world. And that's not the case at all. Israel does the smallest infraction and different dynamics, and the whole world jumps on them. So it's a proof that we do not control the media. But I will say that, I think there's an education process that needs to happen, and I think it comes in a frame of diversity, in providing education curriculum and courses for universities showing the diversity and making it a mainstream understanding that we have Chinese Jews and Indian Jews and African Jews and European Jews and Arab Jews. We have every type of Jew from every part of the world exists, and the world needs to see that. And once they see that, it would really subdue a lot of the anti-Semitism that we're seeing.
Rabbi Mordechai Yosef ben Avraham, thank you very much for coming into our studio today.